What's going on, guys? Sam Adams here, and welcome to another episode of Caffeinate today for December the 14th of 2018. My name is Samuel Adams, and welcome to today's show. For those that are brand new to the program, this is a daily gaming news podcast where I bring you the hottest gaming news from around the industry while gingerly adjusting my mic before the show begins so that everything sounds nice and crisp throughout the entire show. But I host this show here on twitch.tv/TheSamuelAdams 5 days a week, Monday through Friday at 7 p.m. Eastern Time, and it's packed full of the information that you need to know, the highlights of the day, you might say, and then it is posted to youtube.com/SamuelAdamsMedia later on in the night on top of podcast services around the world via multiple platforms through Anchor.fm. A fantastic service, if I do say so myself. But today, we have yet another storefront beginning to offer developers a pretty awesome option if they did want to publish on a specific platform, and that is, shockingly, the Discord store. And that is our headliner for the night. On top of that, Blizzard has downsized the Heroes of the Storm esports initiative, canceling one of my favorite events of the entire industry, which is very unfortunate. Tencent sees console viability as Arena of Valor has hit 1 million installs on the Nintendo Switch. Pretty impressive number there. Red Dead Online's Real Money Store is live. In other words, you now get some microtransactions in the good old Wild West, which, I mean, hey, if it's the Wild West, you should be used to getting robbed anyway. Ha ha. Good joke. Speaking of microtransactions, Star Wars Battlefront 2 officially joins EA Access. Could be a pretty good option for those that do have the service. On top of that, Epic has finally removed the Infinity Blade from Fortnite, and speaking of Fortnite, there is now no more Fortnite leaker site because Epic has threatened some legal action if it did not close down. And to round out the show, a D20, that's right, the dice that's commonly used in Dungeons and Dragons, has resolved a California election, and those are the stories of the day. What a time to be alive, ladies and gents. What a time to be alive. But without further ado, let's go ahead and dive into the gaming news of the day, starting off with the Discord store offering developers a 90-10 revenue split. It's a pretty good ratio right there. The company also pledges to roll out self-serve publishing options to all developers, and they can release games through Discord. The video game store price wars are on. Discord has joined the fray today, announcing that starting next year, it will let developers keep 90% of all revenue from their games made through the Discord store. Additionally, Discord plans to open up developers access to its storefront by releasing a self-serve game publishing platform. Quote, no matter what size, from AAA to single-person teams, I mean, same thing, right? Developers will be able to self-publish on the Discord store with 90% revenue share going to the developer, the company said in a blog post announcing the changes. The remaining 10% covers our operating cost and will explore lowering it by optimizing our tech and making things more efficient. We will also empower developers to communicate with their players by improving verified servers, extending their ability to add great content to the activity feed, and more. We believe if we iterate and work with developers, we can reverse platform fragmentation in the game industry while connecting developers and players closer together. It's been a busy news month for digital storefronts. Valve kicked things off 2 weeks ago by announcing that it was introducing revenue tiers to Steam. Once a game had generated $10 million in revenue, Valve would drop its 30% cut to 25%. If a game reached $50 million in revenue, Valve would lower its cut of revenue beyond that point to 20%. Days later, Epic announced the Epic Games Store, which promised to give developers 88% of all of the revenue that they brought in and to waive royalty fees for any Unreal Engine games published through their own store. And of course, we talked about all these new store outlets and new store news on previous episodes of Caffeinate if you did want to go back and listen or watch those episodes. But this is a very interesting little point that Discord is making here, and I think that it's because, in my opinion, number one, there's a lot of external funding coming into Discord, and on top of that, a lot of people do subscribe to Nitro, which is essentially a prime version of Discord, if you will, a little bit of a tier up if you do want to dish out a couple of extra bucks every month. But overall, Discord doesn't need to have a store, but it's an initiative that they do want to get into. And so overall, they can afford to take a hit because the game store isn't necessarily their primary objective. At its core, Discord is still, quite frankly, a way for people to communicate while they play games. But Discord does stand out in my mind for one specific reason. Whenever I get on my PC as of recently, the only game that I have installed since I have built this new PC, aside from Black Ops 4 to play some Blackout, is actually Ring of Elysium. These are the only 2 games that I have. And I can launch Ring of Elysium directly through Discord. It's not directly integrated into Discord. I don't have it downloaded via the Discord store, but via Steam, it works with Discord. And so that's what really does set this apart in my mind, is that I don't necessarily have to go into Steam to launch my game. It's all available right there in Discord. And so I understand where they're coming from, because if you can go ahead and make the Discord store a more viable option for those that do want to publish and make more money right out of the bat, or off the bat, I suppose, out of the gate or off the bat, depending on your phrase of choice, it would be a good option, because they would therefore present people new games to play when they do log into Discord, on top of already having all of the games they already have available for launching right there in front of you. It is so incredibly simple. So a lot of the mechanics they're introducing on Discord itself are beginning to really kind of reveal themselves and shape where the overall service is going in the next year or two. Now, will this work out? That's the big question everybody is asking, because at the end of the day, how many launchers does somebody actually need? Everybody that has a PC that has games on it generally has Steam installed. A lot of people have the Fortnite Epic Launcher, or the Epic Launcher, whatever you want to call it. I now call it the Fortnite Launcher because that's the only thing I use it for. But a lot of people have these 2 installed already, and a ton of people have Discord. But when it comes to other third-party launchers, do I really need any more of these? I mean, there is Origin, there is Uplay, there is the GOG launcher, GOG Galaxy, I believe is what it's called. There are so many out there that it needs to be streamlined, and I personally think that Discord could potentially do that if they do work closely with outside third parties and other developers. I think that could be a big win for those that do game on PC, to create one unified, I guess, foundation or home base, if you want to call it something like that, where you do just log on and you launch whatever game you want to play, and boom, there you have it, regardless of what launcher or independent company it is through. Again, that's just my 2 cents, but right now Discord is offering the best deal for developers. Again, 90-10 split regardless of how many copies of the game you actually end up selling. And of course, this is going to attract the low-end indie developers, without a doubt. A lot of the big boys are still going to go for Steam because it has such a large install base, but at the end of the day, it's beginning to shift a good bit, and you very well could see some big changes that could hurt Steam's bottom line in the long run, especially if a lot more developers do pull out. And again, we will see what happens. But right now, very interesting time in the PC gaming space. Very interesting indeed. Also, to Blow Pro in the chat, hello, my friend. How are you? But moving on to the next story of the day, one that was a bit disappointing to me. Blizzard downsizes Heroes of the Storm team and cancels the esports plans. It is now on ice, some may say. Blizzard is cutting back on Heroes of the Storm, shrinking the game's team, and canceling its big esports events. Staff will be moved to other internal projects, Blizzard said in a blog post today. There is no word on how many people will be left working on the MOBA. Blizzard said it was a hard choice, repeatedly using the phrases very difficult decision, tough choice, and we don't make these decisions lightly, but the game staff were now needed elsewhere. We have more live games and unannounced projects than at any point in the company's history, Blizzard said in a statement signed by new boss J. Allen Brack and creative chief Ray Gresco. We're also at a point where we need to take some of our talented developers and bring their skills to other projects. As a result, we've made the difficult decision to shift some developers from Heroes of the Storm to other teams, and we are excited to see the passion, knowledge, and experience that they will bring to these projects. This is not the first time we've had to make tough decisions like this. Games like Diablo 2, World of Warcraft, StarCraft 2, Overwatch, and more would not exist had we not made similar decisions in the past. This isn't the end for Heroes of the Storm. Blizzard will still release new heroes and in-game events in the future, though at a slower pace, and there is no word on how slow this will be. The game's Big Heroes Global Championship and Heroes of the Dorm esports events are also being canned. Quote, we ultimately feel this is the right decision versus moving forward in a way that would not meet the standards that players and fans have come to expect, Blizzard said on that. Heroes of the Storm launched in 2015 when MOBAs were big business, but it feels like the industry has moved on. Despite its typically polished Blizzard quality, it never found an audience as large as some of Blizzard's other big hitters, and out of Blizzard's current roster of games, Heroes would be the project you'd cut back on to focus elsewhere. And we all wonder where this is going to end up in the long run. Very disappointing to see that this is beginning to be cut back on. And as we see in the chat, Blowpro says, I'm also sad Toronto lost its OWL team before it even started, which is the Overwatch League. Very weird time for esports right now because, of course, the Battle Royale games are beginning to get a lot of traction. You see a lot of focus on the Fortnite competitive scene. You see a lot of a resurgence in Call of Duty because Black Ops 4 is such a good, high-quality, competitive FPS when it comes down to it. But outside of that hardcore FPS, hardcore shooter kind of genre, the competitive scene is beginning to kind of change and morph into something different. And right now, it seems like Heroes of the Storm might be a casualty of that. Now, I have played the game a couple of times. I will say it's not terrible, but it's not the best MOBA that I've ever seen. You know, of course, if you have the choice between Heroes of the Storm and League, people are going to still go towards League. That's just what it comes down to, and that is still going to be thriving for the coming years. But with Heroes of the Storm, again, Blizzard is going to have to make some changes, and I suppose maybe there was just too much on the table right now, but it's good to hear that no one is losing their jobs over this, because the one thing that continuously impresses me about Blizzard is that throughout all of their projects, throughout all of their franchises, their entities, whatever you want to call them, there is so much creativity and so many good ideas being shared around that little group that I can't help but, you know, enjoy Blizzard even when they do mess up with a Diablo announcement as we saw a couple of months back. With that being said, still disappointing to hear that the Heroes of the Dorm event has been canceled. As a college kid, I always used to love the Heroes of the Dorm. I think that's a very relatable thing. And of course, back whenever MOBAs were beginning to hit their peak, it was a big college thing. A lot of college kids got really into MOBAs and League there towards the beginning of my college career, which was back in 2015. But a ton of people began to really pay attention to that. And I suppose that the interest has, quite frankly, just waned. But still a big disappointment. And for those that are fans of competitive Heroes of the Storm, I apologize, but it looks like you might have to go watch something else as for right now. Of course, there are probably going to be many amateur leagues that pop up, and many more amateur leagues that already exist are going to be beefed up a good bit as more interest is kind of shared elsewhere. So we'll see where all of this goes. It very well could see a resurgence because the industry is continuously fluctuating, and you never know what's going to be popular next week without a doubt. So we'll see what happens with that. But something that is going very well, apparently, is Tencent, as they have seen a console viability with Arena of Valor since it has hit 1 million installs on the Nintendo Switch. Arena of Valor, Tencent Games' first title to ever make the leap to console, just hit 1 million downloads on the Nintendo Switch, the company announced on Friday. Proof it believes that it can bring more of its mobile titles to console. Oh god, why? Quote, this is a very important milestone for not only the game, but also for us as a publisher coming to the West, Edward Gann, project manager for the game at Tencent, told Variety. We've been able to take a game from its mobile roots and redevelop it for the Nintendo Switch, the first of its kind mobile home console, and I believe the gamers saw this natural fit, which has resonated through their adoption of the game. The Nintendo Switch port of the popular mobile multiplayer online battle arena game. Let's go back and talk about that again. The popular mobile multiplayer online battle arena game, MMOBA? Okay. Launched on September the 25th. The game was completely rebuilt with new assets and tweaks to controls to take advantage of the Nintendo hybrid system, the company said at the time. The game is free to play and does not require a Nintendo Switch online membership in the same way that Fortnite does not as well. Arena of Valor is the westernized version of Honor of Kings, which Tencent originally released in China, where it is hugely popular. As of September, it had made over $140 million outside of China, and its gross revenue in the first half of 2018 was up 50% as compared to last year, according to market intelligence company Sensor Tower. First half-year revenue in China was up as well over 25%. That country accounts for about 96% of the game's more than $3.5 billion revenue to date. That is a lot of money. Gann declined to share specifics on the number of concurrent players in Arena of Valor on the Nintendo Switch or the sort of spending the company is seeing in that version of the game. Quote, we can't divulge specific concurrent player counts, but we have a healthy community that plays daily, he said. Because of this and the global servers that we are able to implement in the Nintendo Switch Edition, we're able to see an average queue time averaging only around 15 to 30 seconds to start a 5v5 matchup. In terms of spend, Gann said that Tencent is very excited to see a trend in console with overall higher monetization than even the mobile SKU. Because of this, we see great potential with Tencent in our future in the console space. For now, Tencent Games is focusing on picking through the content for the game that has already hit the mobile version to see what would make sense on the Nintendo Switch. We are being selective in what and how we bring this to the entirely different ecosystem and player base on console, he said. The team evaluates each new hero and their effects on the metagame before deciding what content should be carried over to this unique SKU, which is a good way to do things, I will say. So, of course, right now you see the success of a mobile game that has been ported over to a console, and that's a dangerous thing, because this kind of sends a signal that, hey, we can do this with more mobile games, and so you'll begin to see more and more developers do this, and as we all know, right now, the Nintendo Switch eShop, it can be a little bit trashy, I'm not even going to lie. It was originally very hard to get a game approved back in the Wii era and the Wii U era, but now the Nintendo Switch eShop has been kind of opened up in a way, or at least the approval process has been streamlined, perhaps. I'm not really sure what goes through, but overall, a ton of games have been making it to the Nintendo Switch eShop, and some of which, quite frankly, are not even fit for release. But Arena of Valor is a game that, of course, Tencent has been backing. It's the westernized version of Heroes of Kings, or Honor of Kings, I believe is what the actual name is. But overall, it's not a bad game, and it's good to hear that they are putting a specific amount of focus on ensuring that the game is ready for the console market. It's making sure that everybody is on the same page when it comes to what is successful when it comes to console gaming, because whenever you compare mobile gaming to a console, what works on this thing doesn't always work on a console device, quite frankly, because it's a different kind of ecosystem. There is a different level of expectation when somebody sits down on a Nintendo Switch, on a PlayStation 4, on an Xbox One, whatever it might be. There is a different level of expectation with that kind of experience, and so you kind of have to wait and see what exactly happens, and overall, it could be a pretty good time if they do handle it correctly. So we'll see what happens here, but right now, you have a pretty big level of success with Arena of Valor on the Nintendo Switch. Again, free to play if you did want to dive in and give it a shot. Now, before we move on, two individuals in chat, Attaboy and Flutie, welcome on into the show, and I'm glad to see you here. However, moving on to the next story of the day, Red Dead Online's Real Money Store is live, and here's what it costs to buy gold bars. Microtransaction prices range from $4.99 to $99.99. That's right, you can give Rockstar Games another $100. Rockstar Games released a sizable patch today for Red Dead Redemption 2, and with that patch, it has also launched a cash storefront for Red Dead Online. Players can now purchase premium currency called gold bars with real money and trade them in for some items in-game. Gold bars are available in several bundles. 25 gold bars for $9.99, 55 gold bars for $19.99, 150 gold bars for $49.99, 245 gold bars for $75, and 350 gold bars for $100. There is also a slot for a limited time offer. Currently, you can buy a single bundle of 25 gold bars for just $5. That's right, $5 gets you 25 gold bars in the game, not real life, without a doubt. The conversion rate for the main storefront runs from roughly 40 cents per gold bar for the smallest bundle to less than 29 cents per gold bar for the largest bundle. So essentially, to say that in a more simplified way, the more gold bars you buy, the better off you are when it comes to what do you actually get for your money. However, all of this to say, you could go on to read more about what you can get with your gold bars. There are now microtransactions in Red Dead Online, which we all knew they were coming. I mean, when you look at Grand Theft Auto Online, you have to understand that when it comes down to it, there are many, many microtransactions in that game that allow it to continue to evolve and allow more development to go into that. And so if more people buy gold bars or whatever other microtransactions come down the pipe, you're going to be getting more of a longevity on Red Dead Online, which ultimately is a pretty good thing overall. So overall, if you did want to dive back into Red Dead Online, again, microtransactions are not required, but again, if you do want to get the best experience in Red Dead Online, then you might want to go ahead and dish out a couple of bucks here and there. Depending on what you want to get from your experience, you could have a pretty good time. But again, the prices range from $5 for a limited time all the way up to $100 if you did want to get a full 350 gold bars. And again, that's a lot of money. That is a lot of money. But it's not yet clear if any significant changes to the economy have been made in-game. So again, more experimentation will have to be had before we know exactly how this does impact the game overall. But moving on to the next story of the day, Star Wars Battlefront 2 officially joins EA Access. EA has officially added Star Wars Battlefront 2 to the EA Access Vault. The Vault, available on Xbox One, is a collection of EA games accessible to subscribers. You can download and play those games without any limits for as long as you are a member. EA constantly expands the Vault, and the latest edition was actually spoiled ahead of time. That being Star Wars Battlefront 2, of course, which has been showing up in players' vaults for 2 weeks now. Good job with the surprise there, boys. Good job with the surprise. That appears to have been a soft launch, and the game has now officially launched for all EA Access members. Usually, Origin Access follows a few days after, but EA has yet to announce plans for the PC's equivalent service. Premier members obviously have access to everything, as you would expect, because you, sir, / madam, / person, are a Premier member. But now is an interesting time to jump into Battlefront 2. The game recently received a big content update which added playable Obi-Wan and Geonosis. I'm not a big Star Wars guy, and more Clone Wars era content. And to download it, just head over to EA Access Hub on your Xbox One, and boom, there it is if you do have a subscription. Overall, I'm very proud of where Star Wars Battlefront 2 has come over the course of the past couple of years, really. Of course, when the game launched, it was abysmal when it comes to the reception. It was just a game that completely and totally was decimated when it comes to how the public reacted to it, because there were very unfair levels of microtransactions that really did allow those that were willing to put in more and more money to pretty much dominate every time they played online. On top of that, it was a single-player story, which was a big change from the first reboot of Battlefront, but the single-player campaign was not what you would call in-depth. It wasn't something that was necessarily one that was satisfying in the long term for those that did want to play, and so at the end of the day, people began to fall away from it pretty quickly. But over time, as the microtransaction issue was kind of managed and they kind of patched what the, damage had been done, and on top of that, they added more content to the game and they continued supporting it, it's actually a pretty solid experience for those that are fans of Star Wars. So if you did want to dive in again, add it to the EA Access Vault. I believe right now, if I remember correctly, I saw it at GameStop for, I think, $10. It's a very cheap game now, and one that, number one, looks beautiful, but number two, plays pretty well as well. So if you do want to jump in and give it a shot, I have seen a lot of people singing the praises of this game, and you can try for yourself and see if it is something you might want to give it a shot. But overall, I mean, Obi-Wan, number one, added the game now. That's pretty cool if you did want to jump in and play as Obi-Wan, but should have been there from launch. Why? Why would you not put Obi-Wan in at launch? I do not understand this logic. However, moving on to the next story of the day, Epic has removed the Infinity Blade from Fortnite for being too overpowered. That's right, the Infinity Blade is finally gone after just a couple of days in the game. Too much of a good thing, they say Destructoid. In my opinion, it was terrible from the streams and the reactions that I saw. The whole appeal of Battle Royale subgenre is that the odds of winning are left to a random chance. Sometimes you land in a spot with a ton of excellent gear, and other times you are stuck with squat. Skill will get you a long way, but a good drop can make or break the early game. This week, Epic Games introduced the Infinity Blade from its old mobile series into Fortnite, and it turned out that it was far too powerful. Players would scramble to grab it, and anyone lucky enough to pull it from the stone would basically win the round. It wasn't a 100% guarantee, but the odds were more in your favor with little to no skill involved. Epic has been listening to complaints and for the moment has removed the sword from Fortnite. In a post on Twitter, the studio noted that it will be re-evaluating mythic items for Fortnite in the future to prevent a similar scenario from happening again. If you were hoping to get an easy win in singles, it looks like that time has passed. Rest in peace to the Infinity Blade. I would say it might be added back in a couple of weeks, but right now, for those that have not been keeping up with it, essentially the mythic item was an Infinity Blade, as the article did say, from a classic mobile franchise, which we talked about being shut down earlier in the week and living on through this edition of Fortnite. But it was so incredibly overpowered to where in one hit people could be taken down, and that was very unfair. I mean, I watched very popular streamers get completely and totally taken down, and of course, as we saw earlier in the week, there was a tournament in which the person in the tournament was able to get the sword, and guess what? Completely and totally decimated everybody else, and there was no competitive edge based on skill. It was all about who had the sword, and that, my friends, is completely and totally unfair in my opinion. Now, many people said that's the point of adding something like this to the game. You have to test your skill. You have to test your might. You have to make sure that you are able to do whatever you need to do to get that W. otherwise known as a win. And so people were talking about that. People were saying the thing was too overpowered. Overall, too much friction within the community. People said Fortnite was abysmal in this current state, and they have since went ahead and taken the sword out of the game. Now, I stopped playing Fortnite about probably 3 months ago, I would say. I just kind of lost interest in it, but I know a ton of people have been going back since Season 7 began, and you can't really risk losing too many people, even in Fortnite's case, because one bad move can kind of trigger a giant avalanche in a way that continuously flows down the mountain until you're crushed underneath it by the next big game that does arise. I liked my metaphor. But if you did want to jump back into Fortnite, it looks like you're good to go if you suck like I do, because guess what? The Infinity Blade is gone. But speaking of being gone, Fortnite leaker says Epic legal threats forced the closure. That's right, Epic looks like it's pulling a PUBG. If you remember that, you are not really old, you just paid attention last year. But I'm not going to go into specifics with this, they say, but due to the request of an Epic Games attorney who I'm not going to disclose, my Twitter, Discord, YouTube, Instagram, and GitHub must be deleted or else they will take action, said FNBR Leaks, otherwise known as Fortnite Battle Royale Leaks owner, Preston on Twit Longer Friday. Thank you all for the support and followers over my 7-month span of the FNBR Leaks Twitter. Sadly, everything comes to an end. Preston received a cease and desist letter from Epic, which was posted to Discord by an FNBR Leaks staff member. The letter claims Preston's actions are damaging to Fortnite community because they have spoiled the game for millions of people who play and or watch Fortnite and negatively impact those who work hard to create and update Fortnite. The fact that he is a teenager makes this no less true. Although FNBR Leaks' original Discord server is gone, it still has a website and a new server. Variety obtained a copy of the letter here, which you can view below. FNBR Leaks is known for gathering data mined information on upcoming Fortnite content, things like new cosmetics and weapons, and leaking it online. Its Twitter page had about 243,000, it's a lot of people, followers before it disappeared, according to Eurogamer, which made it one of the most well-known Fortnite leak sources on the internet, and I believe that I've reported on it multiple times, actually. But Epic Games told Variety in a statement on Friday it wasn't the data mining that landed FNBR Leaks in its legal crosshairs. Quote, "The owner of this account and others promoted and advertised the sale of game modification tools which violate our terms of service, and this is not directly related to data mining or leaking," an Epic Games spokesperson said. Epic is known for taking a hard stance against alleged cheaters and mod sellers. It filed a lawsuit in October against a popular YouTuber, Golden Mods, for allegedly using and selling Fortnite cheats. Last year, it infamously filed another lawsuit against a 14-year-old boy for also allegedly using hacks within the popular Battle Royale game, which prompted a scathing letter from the child's mother. And again, here is the actual letter itself, which does say that Preston immediately has a cease and desist from circumventing security measures Epic has put into place to prevent access to copyright protected code. So, I'm calling you bluff there, Epic. I'm just saying there's no reason that this person should be punished because they're potentially selling modifications or any kind of cheating methods. I don't know the validity of that statement, but I will say that the letter that has been sent to this person, if it is valid, and again, Variety is reporting on it, so you can take it up with them, if this is valid, very much so, this is just data mining being punished for trying to figure out what is coming next in Fortnite. And I identify with both sides, you know. As somebody who does dig and try and find information in the gaming industry, as somebody who is, you know, somebody who is in college for communications and journalism, I understand the value of digging, trying to find new information about a specific story. I totally get all of this, you know, I understand where you're coming from. But in addition to that, I also can identify with those that are developing the game, that are behind the scenes trying to make these big debuts with the content that they are pumping out. I think it could be seen from both angles in a way. But at the end of the day, when it comes to data mining and trying to figure out what is coming next, is it good, is it bad? Apparently, Epic is not for it. So, again, FNBR Leaks has been shut down. And of what I understand, they did pretty good work. I haven't seen anybody saying that it's terrible. I know that there have been a couple of leaks that haven't been legitimate, but I believe they've reported pretty good stuff. However, again, we don't have to worry about that anymore because they have been shut down. With that being said, you know that there are still going to be a ton of people posting new leaks to Twitter, Facebook, Instagram, all of these other places, because when it comes to a game that is as big as Fortnite is, you can't help but assume somebody's going to be data mining. You can't help but find people that are going to be putting that information out there. That's just kind of what happens because people like the game and they dig. That's kind of what the thing, that's the idea behind, you know, reporting on things, especially something as big and as culturally valuable as Fortnite is. But I digress. For those that are behind the scenes at FNBR Leaks, again, I apologize for you being shut down. If you did anything wrong, well, it looks like you got your just desserts. If you were just reporting, well, it looks like that's against the rules. So sorry, boys. Sorry. However, the final story of the day is one that I couldn't help but throw in, and that is that the California election has been resolved with Dungeons and Dragons dice. Candidates roll, save us, tied result. Oh, wait. Candidates roll, save versus tied result. Whatever. Weird fonts kind of threw me off there. But in California, 2 candidates for an irrigation district's board of commissioners ended up tied in November's election and had to make a saving throw last week. That's right, incumbent Larry Enos Jr. and challenger Milan Pete Petrovich rolled a 20-sided die to determine their contest for a seat on the Byron Bethany Irrigation District's board. And the die was, in fact, taken from someone's Dungeons & Dragons set. Scott Konopasek, I believe is how you say that name, Assistant Registrar of Voters in Contra Costa County, a lot of big words and names here, said someone in the office happened to be having it lying around. Enos and Petrovich ended up tied at 51 votes for their race. Only 147 voters were eligible and 110 voted, which would originally be great turnout, except that 8 made no selection. California law says ties must be resolved by a drawing of lots, but doesn't care what method is used. That means Konopasek's office could have gone with a coin flip, drawing high cards, or a game of Rochambeau, but a good old D20 rolled 3 times provided the best chance that the drawing would not end in, well, a draw again. Enos threw a 20 on his last roll in a dice-off live streamed on Facebook last Friday and sealed his win 51-45 on aggregate. Konopasek told KPIX-TV of San Francisco that he expects D20 to get more use in the future. The county has switched to newly configured district-based elections, and this was the first election under them, and with the smaller vote totals expected, ties may be more likely. I like how I accidentally said country, and just imagine for me. Let's all just back up and imagine. The next presidential election comes around for the United States, and you have these 2 candidates, whoever they may end up being, and they just say, okay, nothing else matters. Here's my D20. Just pulls it out of his pocket and throws it on the table. American politics. What? However, congratulations to the victor there, and again, good rolls indeed. Maybe on the break, maybe on the lunch break there during the irrigation. What is this? The irrigation district board? Maybe when they're all on lunch, you could have a good little round of D&D, or at least get some good narration in there. Who knows what they'll end up coming up with, but as for right now, that rounds out today's episode of Caffeinate. If you did enjoy today's show, be sure to drop me a like down below if you are watching on YouTube. And on top of that, if you are listening via podcast services around the world, be sure to hit that subscribe button, that follow button, whatever you might be hitting, to get it delivered to you every single weekday around 7 o'clock Eastern Time if you did want to check that out. But for those watching live on Twitch, I appreciate you being here as well. And if you did want to watch live on Twitch, again, the show is hosted live 5 days a week on twitch.tv/TheSamuelAdams at 7 p.m. Eastern Time if you did want to check it out. But as for right now, I'm going to go grab a bite to eat, and I'm going to sit down and figure out more about what exactly it is that the Byron Bethany Irrigation District Board actually does, because I have no idea. But have a fantastic night, and I will talk to you soon. Peace.